Greetings, friends, neighbors, allies, and compatriots. Mischief Magus here, in tradition with keeping to the theme of the last video, where I talked about the sun and its general rulerships. I want to talk about the moon. We're going to go through all the 7 planets. I'm going to make a video for each. I'm going to try and make them as understandable as possible. I know going through some of this stuff it can be dry and it can be difficult to sift out what is quality and what is not. Now, why am I explaining this stuff to you? Well, if you're blessed with a good moon in your birth chart, you're going to want to know what she rules, because then you can make little offerings and all that kind of stuff for when you want to make your altar. So I have my tablet here. I'm just going to read some stuff off SkyScript to you guys. I'm also going to go over a couple other things that I feel are really, really important. As a general rule, the moon, like the sun, is one of the lights of the sky, the solar system, anything we can see in our charts. The sun creates light, obviously. The moon reflects and borrows it, like a mirror. And that's how the two are lights. Now, and I want to get into this in a different video called Sect, but I don't have time for that right now. The sun rules the day part of Sect, the moon rules the night part of Sect. They are going to be extremely important in the next couple of videos. I might have to make a couple of videos for that because it's a pretty exhaustive topic and it permeates pretty much everything. Day and night, Sect. Moon rules night, sun rules day. Very interesting. We'll get on that later. Right now I want to talk to you about just the names. I mean, you can use these for the moon if you choose when you're doing your little rituals. You don't have to do them, but figure if you're going to call out to a planetary spirit, you might want to call it out to it by some of its ancient names that people have used in long times past who are now dust and memories. Anyway, pretty common names. I'm just going to give you 3 of them right off the bat that I think are pretty useful. Cynthia was a name for the moon, Diana, and Phoebe. Interestingly enough, Phoebus was, like, Phobos was the name of the sun. In ancient times, the sun and moon were considered brother and sister. I mean, 2 halves of a whole, unity of God, supporting the masculine and the feminine sides. That's what I think, and I'm pretty sure that's how it is. So if you want to use those names, you can. Obviously, as we had mentioned before, she rules Cancer, and that's her home, basically. And she is detrimented in Capricorn, the opposite of Cancer, farthest away from home she could be. She falls in Scorpio, which sucks for me because I have that. Just, it means that she has very little power there. It's like, literally like falling down a hole and you can't get out. Ah! And what are you going to do? Are you going to help? No, you're in a fucking hole. What are you going to do? That's what fall is. She rules the earthly triplicity by night. I haven't gone into triplicities either because they're just, I want to make the videos relevant for when they come. So, yeah. So her nature, as it says here and should be known, she's feminine, nocturnal, cold and moist, and phlegmatic, which is of the temperament phlegm, which is cold and moist. We'll get into that later as well. There's a lot of stuff we haven't covered yet. You don't really need all of it, but it's helpful and it's fun to know, so whatever. So, interesting. People that the moon signifies. Well, if the sun is the light of the sky, and the moon is the other light of the sky, and the sun rules kings and princes and dukes and barons, well, the moon rules the opposite, feminine, queens, duchesses, princesses, stuff like that. Also common people, interestingly enough. I want to get to that a little bit into this video later, but she rules the common people. And the reason for this is because of how fast she moves around the houses. It's everyone. So, really interesting. I'm sure you can find that somewhere, but a friend told me about it. Common people. Very interesting. Also, fishermen, sailors, so Popeye, be ruled by the moon. I mean, I know that's not really, he's not he's not an element of nature. Popeye's not like part of the world. Yes, now that I have a powerful moon, I rule Popeye. It doesn't work that way. But sailors are signified by the moon. Fishermen as well, as I had already said. Brewers too, people that brew. Interesting. This is one of my favorite parts. I always like this. Colors and savors. This is easy. White or pale green are always good choices for the moon. You look up in the sky. What color is the moon? It looks purple today. It's pale white or pale green. Silver also. It also says here of savors, the fresh or without any flavor, such as in herbs before they be ripe, or such as do moisten the brain. That's how they wrote back then. And also pertaining to flavor or savors, there are some herbs here that are considered lunar. I want to go into Nicholas Culpeper's book of the Complete Herbal long time down in the future, but that's one that I'm really looking forward to. I'm just going to basically read about herbs that he talks about. He's one of those brilliant herbalists, doctors that ever lived, in my opinion. Lunar herbs. Poppy, interestingly enough, I always thought that was funny. But it kind of makes sense because the moon has that, dreamy sort of... I don't know if that really is why, but I don't know, it makes sense to me. Poppy, you get drugs, and moon, lunatics. I don't know. I know that's not exactly correct, but I don't know, it makes sense in my mind. Also lettuce, super obvious as I just said. Fleshy, watery things. Cucumbers too. You have like anything that doesn't really have, I know cucumbers have a flavor, but a lot of cucumbers are water. A lot of just watery plants. Also water lilies and mushrooms, believe it or not. So I think that's interesting. It goes on to explain some other stuff. Cabbage. Onions, interestingly. Melons, well that makes sense. Watermelons, it's watermelon. They're pretty flavorful too. And it also says here, all trees or herbs who have round, shady, great spreading leaves and are little fruitful. I want to get into this later, but now that it says something about this, each part of a plant corresponds with one of the 7 planets. It's wild. So I'll give you an example. Roots belong to Saturn, and I think fruit belongs to Jupiter. It's really cool. Or seeds. I think the sun has rulership over the seeds of plants, and that's like pretty universal across everything. When we get into what's his name, Harold Roth, and I haven't read his book yet, but I do have it, and I want to read some excerpts from it. But he says that all plants have signatures from the divine spirits of the planets. And after I read that, it really made me think differently about plants in general. And you just step on them, stupid plants, get out of my lawn. And like you might not even know what they're being ruled by. It might be ruled by Mars, and it might be like, you bastard, I'm gonna get you. More weeds. Maybe. Typically, and here's a part I don't think I covered with the sun. Or if I did, it was just the king's throne room. There are other places too, but that's a general rule. Here, it explains a little bit more. Places that are ruled by the moon, fields, fountains, baths, havens of the sea, like ports, standing pools, boggy places, little brooks, springs, and common shores are all ruled by the moon. Minerals and stones. This could be helpful if you want to, as you will see soon enough, if you want to make an altar and you want to have stones to represent or offer to the moon. Silver, I don't know what this is. Selenite, all soft stones and crystals, because crystals are mostly clear. They have colors. If you're interested, the angel is Gabriel of the moon. I don't really work with the moon. I wish I could, but I can't. Her day of the week is Monday, Moon Day. Goes after Sunday. I didn't give this with the sun, but I want to do this. So it's important. It's also helpful to kind of get an idea of what the moon represents, when it's good and when it's bad. This isn't going to be like, oh, I have a fallen moon, so I'm going to be an old hag. But it explains certain things. Physical descriptions offered. Generally fair stature, white, complexion and color, pale, not, Caucasian, round eyes, round face, gray eyes, and a little lowering, I don't know what that word is, Louring. Much hair both on the head, face, and other parts, usually one eye a little larger than the other, short hands and fleshy, the whole body inclining to be fleshy, plump, and corpulent. Kind of interesting because she rules, fleshy plants like lettuce. If the moon is impeded by the sun in the nativity or question, she usually signifies some blemish in or near the eye. If she be impeded in succeedent houses, in the sight, if she be unfortunate in angles and with fixed star, called nebulose. I don't really think that's that important. The main part was what I wanted to cover. Manners when well placed. Composed manners, a soft, tender creature, a lover of all honest and ingenious sciences, a searcher of and delighter in novelties, natural propensity to flit and shift habitation, unsteadfast, wholly caring for the present times, timorous, prodigal. Now, prodigal is not like you're a prodigy. Prodigal means wasteful. Look it up. It means wasteful. It does not mean you're a prodigy. Ugh. The prodigal son returns. The wasteful son returns. Use a different word. Easily frightened. However, loving peace and to live free from the cares of this life. If a mechanic, the man learns many occupations and frequently will be tampering with many ways to trade in. Pretty awesome. So if you have a good moon, it's pretty good. I don't. Manners when badly placed. A mere vagabond. Idle person, hating labor, a drunkard, a sot, one of no spirit or forecast, delighting to live beggarly and carelessly, one content in no condition in life, either good or ill. Which is interesting because I'm not a drunkard and I'm not a beggar. So you see how it kind of works out. It's interesting, and you can't just read something and be like, oh, well, you're just a schmuck who just lives on the side of the road because fuck you and you have a shitty moon. I mean, that's not really how it is. But it's really interesting how they come up with these and they work over time. These are just what the moon represents. Another thing I wanted to mention, I think in my house video, the 12 houses, I explained, or I wrote, I can't remember which, how the moon joys in the third house. Now, why? Well, the third house rules all short distance travels, and they're never too unfamiliar. So it would be like going to the post office, or going to work, or going to the supermarket, or going to see my friend, even if it's like 50 minutes away, which is very interesting. Those are kind of the things that the third house rules, along with brothers and siblings and extended parts of the family. Mostly brothers. It's called the House of Brothers. And short travel. But anyway, the reason I mentioned the third house is because the moon joys in the third house, because it's similar to what the moon likes. Moon likes traveling, moving everywhere, because if you look in the sky, it's literally the fastest planet, faster than Mercury. It just goes super, 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 super fast. And I think that's awesome. I think it makes sense that it relates to the third house in that way. So anyway, this is my video on the moon. I saw some guy on Reddit was talking about what to offer the moon, and if you want an idea, the number 9 is also helpful for the moon, as well as if you want to offer lettuce, pale green colors, wear like a pale green robe or something, and maybe offer some cucumbers or something. I would recommend 9 cucumbers if you want. So yeah, it's I don't know, it's just interesting. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll get to Mercury in just a bit.